In the society that we live in, we are raised to believe that getting married, having kids, buying a house, that these are all markers of success. The times when we're celebrated the most in life are when we are getting engaged, when we're getting married, when we're announcing our pregnancies. And don't get me wrong, these are all incredible moments of life and they should be celebrated. But being raised in a society that puts so much emphasis on these milestones, when you are not reaching those milestones by a certain age, or when you don't have a desire to, you start to feel out of place and like you're behind in life. And then because of that, I feel like so many people rush into these things. Like, these are very huge decisions to make in life. Who you choose to marry is probably the biggest decision you will ever make in your life. And so many people rush into that decision because they're afraid of being behind in life. And I myself was one of them. I've actually never shared this publicly, but I got married when I was 20 years old, which is actually so crazy to think about. Like, it actually feels like another lifetime. But I rushed into such a huge commitment at such a young age, and I was not ready for it at all. I definitely don't regret it because I learned so much from this experience, and I also got my dog, Maya, out of this marriage. But within a year and a half, this marriage completely exploded. I moved back in with my parents and I rebuilt my life with so much relationship trauma to heal from. After that experience, I have really spent a majority of my 20s just really finding myself, spending my time experiencing life, traveling with my best friends, and I have been in a couple of serious relationships since then, but I'm now single at 28 years old, and I honestly couldn't be happier. I have no desire to enter a relationship anytime soon, especially not right now because I'm super focused on my career and myself. But I share all of this to say that the biggest advice that I could give anybody in their 20s is to decenter romantic relationships. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you stop wanting romantic relationships, because I think it's very natural to want romance and love and to spend your days with somebody. I think it's very natural to want love and affection from someone. But this whole idea of decentering men and decentering romantic relationships just means that you're no longer placing so much emphasis on relationships, and instead you're putting that energy into yourself. And when you prioritize yourself and you place that energy into yourself instead of other people, and you become your own source of validation, you stop settling. Decentering men and romantic relationships means that you would rather be alone than ever settle and ever lower your standards. And instead of pouring your energy into people who don't deserve you, you pour your energy into yourself. You focus on you. You get to know you. And you fill your life up with so many beautiful experiences. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, especially as we approach the new year. If you have a goal to focus on yourself, and maybe you're tired of constantly feeling let down by situationships and by dating, then this video is definitely going to help you. Because the best thing you will ever do is choose to put your energy that you're giving to somebody else and put it on yourself instead. This is the 7th video of my Glowmas series where I am helping you glow from the inside out in preparation for the new year. I'll be sharing videos every other day until December 25th, and I've also linked the playlist down below, so if you want to watch the other videos, you can do that. And if you like these kinds of videos, definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell, and without further ado, let's get into it. So I wanted to start this video off by saying that I don't have a problem with relationships. I think that a divine partnership is so beautiful. It can add so much to your life. Having the right partner in your life to support you and to uplift you and to be your rock can seriously benefit your life so much. So the problem isn't in romantic relationships. The problem is settling for relationships that aren't divine and beautiful and giving you that support and that love that you deserve. It's settling for relationships where you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, you don't feel understood. You feel disrespected, you feel like your values aren't in alignment, and maybe you're staying in this relationship because you feel like that's all you deserve, or you're afraid to be alone. Or maybe you're not in a relationship, maybe you're single, but you're yearning for that relationship, and maybe you're finding yourself constantly in these situationships and getting led on by these different people. Or maybe you feel like your life doesn't have meaning until you get into a relationship. Maybe you're waiting to start your life until you get into a relationship. Maybe everybody in your life are in happy relationships and you feel jealous. You feel like there's something wrong with you because you're the only single one. I want to offer you a perspective shift. Being single is genuinely the greatest blessing. It is a privilege to be single at any age in life, honestly, but especially in your 20s when you're still figuring things out. I am so grateful that I spent a majority of my 20s being single because I was able to take so many chances on myself and follow so much of my own passion and my own purpose in life because I wasn't settling. I was not compromising what I truly wanted for anybody. Again, I think it's beautiful if you're in a partnership with somebody who allows you to be your full self and allows you to follow and go after the things that truly mean everything to you. But if you're not in that, it's also okay because you can do it yourself. And what is the alternative to that? Being with somebody who is controlling you or being with somebody who doesn't allow you to follow the things that are on your heart. That is so restrictive. I feel like being single is often viewed as something to fix or to escape, but I actually think it's a blessing to be single. It is a privilege to be in this season of your life where you can fully devote your time and energy to yourself. And when I say single, I also mean you have nobody depending on you. Like you don't have a child, you don't have a partner, nobody. Like you are just single. All you need to focus on is yourself. Being single is a season of life where you are able to pour all of your energy into yourself. You're able to get to know yourself. You're able to go after your big dreams. You know, a big reason why I am not desiring a romantic relationship right now is because I work a creative job. So a lot of what I do involves me needing to really take care of myself and make sure that I have enough energy to show up for the things that I'm doing. So it would be unfair for me or for anybody that I choose to be in a relationship with right now because I would not be able to give them my full energy because I need to put so much of that into myself. So how do you actually decenter men and decenter romantic relationships? I think a big thing to remember is that you are not a half of a person. There's like a very common messaging out there that states that a partner is your other half, which I feel like even just that essentially means that you are only half a person until you find your other half. And I just personally do not resonate with that at all, at least in the context of relationships. When we're talking about marriage, I do believe that you merge your lives into one for sure. But when we're talking about just relationships, you are two completely separate people and you need to have your own separate full life. You are not half a person because you're not in a relationship. You are a full, whole being. Without a relationship. A relationship is an addition to your life. It should not be your entire life. In my experience, whenever I've made a relationship my entire life, all that's led to is resentment and unfulfillment within myself. And so experiencing that taught me how important it is for me to make sure that regardless who I'm with, I am constantly nourishing myself, and I need to be with somebody who allows me to nourish myself and who wants me to nourish myself. If somebody is taking so much of my energy, that's not somebody that I want to be with. So what does it look like to create a full and vibrant life without a romantic relationship? So for me, that looks like having strong female friendships that nourish me. I think that we underestimate the power of female friendships, having that emotional support. Women are so nurturing and caring and loving, and having strong female friends in your life provides you with so much love, care, and support. Also, having a career that brings fulfillment and independence. This is actually something that I've learned in the past year, is how important it is for me to build my career first and build that independence for myself first before getting into a relationship, because then I end up settling for less because I'm in this place of desperation. So I think being independent first and being able to fully sustain yourself will allow you to not be in survival mode. You do not want to date when you're in survival mode, because when you're dating while you're in survival mode, you end up lowering your standards and you end up settling for less, especially if it's a man who is a provider and he wants to provide financially for you. That's great, but does he also provide for you emotionally, mentally, spiritually? We can't just focus on the physical, and when you're in survival mode, all you're focusing on is the physical. So that is a huge lesson that I learned. The next one is having passion projects or something that brings you purpose in life or allows you to creatively express yourself. Especially as women, we are creative beings. We need to channel that creative energy into something. And that can honestly look different for everybody. For me, it's in my content creation. Like, I do not feel fulfilled in life when I am not creating YouTube videos and creating content for TikTok. Like, this is my form of expression. But maybe for you, it's writing, it's painting, it's crocheting. Maybe you have some fun little hobby that you love to do. Maybe you design coffee mugs and you sell them at your farmer's market. I don't know. But just having something outside of your typical 9-to-5 that just allows you to creatively express yourself. And then another thing too is having strong routines and structures that allow you to ground while also nourishing yourself. I think another component to decentering men and decentering romantic relationships is being able to self-validate. A lot of times the reason people are in relationships is because that other person is constantly validating them. They don't want to be alone because that means not having that external validation. The validation that you get from somebody choosing you and loving you and showing up for you. But what if you could be that for yourself? That's not to say that you don't want those things from a partner, but if wanting those things is causing you to settle for less, that is when you need to give that to yourself and learn to self-validate. And I feel like self-validation is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that I'm currently learning in therapy. I'm doing a lot of parts work. So if you're familiar with internal family systems, it essentially is like the process of reparenting yourself and how we have so many different parts within us that just need to be validated and reassured. And something that I've been doing recently is constantly validating myself whenever I have a negative thought. So I have this very specific phrase that I say to myself that I don't really want to say out loud, but it's a phrase that I say to myself that I know is caused by me thinking something negative about myself. So I will usually think something negative about myself or think of a situation that made me feel some type of way, and then after that I will say this very negative phrase, which is very hateful towards myself. So what I've been doing is I've been catching myself. Whenever I say that really negative, hateful phrase, I will pause and I will ask myself, wait a second, what was I just thinking about? And then I go to the situation that I was thinking about right before saying that hateful thing to myself, and I will validate myself for the feelings that I felt in that moment. Usually it has to do with social situations, like I say the wrong thing, or maybe I came off with a little bit of attitude, or I snapped at somebody and I didn't really process it until later on. And so it would come up and then I would say something hateful towards myself in my thoughts. So what I'm doing is just pausing, recalling whatever it is that I was thinking about prior to having that negative thought or negative feeling, and then validating myself for whatever that situation is. That has been something that's really been helping me self-validate. Another way you can do this too is by affirming yourself or showing yourself love in whatever your love language is. So whatever way you like to be shown love from another partner, doing that for yourself. I actually saw a TikTok the other day where she was sharing different things you can do based on your love language. So different things you can do for yourself. So I'm just gonna read a couple. This was by Self-Love by Anna, by the way, on TikTok, just so I can give her some credit. But if your love language is acts of service, then you can plan, you can cook a comfort meal, make appointments, organize, meal prep, declutter. If your love language is physical touch, skincare, cuddling with your pets, heating pads, massage, yoga or stretching, taking a bath. If your love language is words of affirmation, speaking kindly to yourself, expressing gratitude, journaling, watching TED Talks, mantras, affirmation, giving compliments to yourself. If your love language is quality time, being in nature, engaging in your passions, trying different hobbies, reading books, prioritizing alone time, meditating, taking a walk. If your love language is receiving gifts, start a DIY project, pick or buy flowers, invest in yourself, get your favorite coffee, buy a new plant, plan a trip, order takeout, get your nails done. Reading all of these, I feel like I do all of these. I feel like my love language is every single thing. So if you relate to that, I can also link this TikTok down below so you can see it yourself. But I really like that because I thought that was super helpful for learning how to be there for yourself and give yourself that love that you're seeking from somebody else. Also, another way to self-validate is, I talked about this in my breakup video about how whenever you find yourself thinking of an ex or thinking of somebody who used to be in your life, asking yourself what it is that you need in that moment that that person used to give you. So this came up for me recently because I was feeling really sick, and usually when I'm sick, I fall off of my routines because I'm just resting and taking care of myself. And as a result of that, I usually am very hard on myself. So I found myself really thinking about an ex, and I realized that the reason I was constantly thinking about him was because he used to give me a lot of emotional support, and he would really be there for me when I was being very hard on myself. So I realized that that's what I needed to give to myself. So that is a really strong way to validate yourself. And if this is something that you struggle with, I highly recommend getting into therapy because that can really teach you the tool of self-validation. Something that is not talked about enough is how the women that you surround yourself with can be the reason that you have either high standards or low standards. So I actually made this realization for myself a couple of years ago when I realized that the reason I was raising my standards and the reason that I had more standards for myself was because of the women I was surrounding myself with. Seeing your best friend get treated like a princess and get treated like she deserves and get the life that she deserves, that makes you not want to settle for anybody who's giving you less. Whereas when you are friends with people who are settling for bare minimum or who are constantly staying in toxic relationships, you start to think that that is normal and you end up settling as well. So from that point, I made a decision for myself that I would only surround myself with strong women who were okay with either being alone or who were in healthy and strong relationships where they were getting treated like a princess. Shifting your focus from external to internal is not something that's easy to do, especially when we've been taught to prioritize relationships over ourselves. And I actually created a video all about entering your villain era and really focusing on yourself and setting healthy boundaries to allow you to focus more on yourself. So I can share that video up here. But trust me when I say that this is the most powerful thing that you can do. You don't need to wait for somebody to save you. You are enough as you are. It is so much better to be alone than it is to be in a relationship where you're settling and you're not getting treated with the love and respect that you deserve. And I know it's a hard decision to make sometimes, but it is always so worth it, and it's a decision that you will not regret. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Bye.